Right, hey everyone, I'm Tom. I'm one of the co-founders at FX Digital. I also had a nightmare getting here today. The tubes weren't running. We had a flood in the office when we got here. And I've just finished doing the slide deck, so please bear with me. It's been a very chaotic start to this evening. But yeah, a little bit about who we are. So, as I said, I'm Tom, I'm one of the co-founders. We're FX Digital. We focus on designing and building connected TV applications. We really focus on the bespoke design and build. So brands that want to have a customized user experience, we help develop that at the agency. There's 70 of us roughly. We've got an office in London with a partial leak at the moment, and we've also got an office in Barcelona. And our vision is to scale that office up this year. I just thought I'd just chuck in a few of the kind of key disciplines that we have at FX. So we've got the design team, which I tee up with Eslam and a few of the designers at the office. And then we've got our engineering team, quality assurance, quality engineering, Martin at the front. We've got the FX row here, I love it. Project management, and we also have product as well. So we kind of have very distinct functions, but one thing that we really care about in the office is working closely together. So we're all in the office 3 days a week. We really value that in-person collaboration. And I think that's what helps us create great products for our clients, because we're continually talking to one another and we're not kind of siloed teams. We make sure that we're sharing what we're working on and tapping up with the engineers and the designers and making sure we've got that kind of cross-collaboration going. So yeah, I've broken this talk down into 3 areas. So I thought, first of all, we'd talk about our design processes, how we kind of design for connected TV specifically, and then talk through some of the tools that have helped us be just a bit more efficient in what we do, so that we can work on more complex design systems. And then also thinking about, well, where's connected TV going? What does the future look like? So some of those other devices that are coming down the line that we need to think about. So, design processes, here we go. These are just some pictures from the office. So, typically when we start a project, we always do a workshop. So clients come down on site, we'll figure out what the app is that they want to create, what their vision is for the product. We'll sort of understand what platforms they want to get on. Obviously, there's a plethora of connected TV devices, so we understand what territories they're targeting, what devices are they thinking about. And we'll also start to look at things like the high-level requirements and start to capture what those functions and features that they want to have in the application. From that, I am fast-tracking the process as well. There's lots of coffees and meetings and stuff, but we get to this point, which is where we start our user story map. So our head of product, Julia, has brought in this process to FX. And honestly, this is like, I know it's just a Miro board, but this tool has been so helpful when we're designing and building connected TV apps, because this essentially is basically capturing all of the kind of critical points that a user needs to complete to complete a goal or an action within the application. So very early on, we map out all of the kind of key steps, all of the key user stories at a high level, and that gives us a good sense of what it is that we're building. But another thing that we add to this is we have these different swim lanes. So you can see we've got kind of different lanes up here. So one of the principles we have at FX when we design for apps is to have a minimal certifiable product, not an MVP, a certifiable product. The reason we do that is because certification process can be quite long, can be quite short. You never quite know. Sometimes it can be 2 weeks, a month, 3 weeks, almost borderline 6 months. Sometimes it helps to know who the brand is and how much weight they have, or if they've got paid advertising. But we like to get into the certification process early, because it means that we can get it into the ecosystem, we can start getting feedback, and it means whilst that's happening, we can build out all the other features and functionality. So what is a certifiable product? Well, it's sticking with things like accessibility guidelines, making sure playback works, that's kind of a crucial one, making sure you've got smooth streams, and also making sure that it's slick, low load times, loads within 3 seconds, kind of all the belts and braces stuff we want to get right first. And then after that, we'll start to look at like the MVP functionality, so the things that clients want to add to their apps that are going to enhance the experience. And then to take it a step further, we look at the minimal lovable product. So that's like the aspirational, what's this look like, in a year's time, year and a half time, where we've got maybe interactive video players or some of the kind of more advanced features that we want to bring to the product. So before I dive into, the actual designs that we do, I thought I'd talk about some key design principles that we all think about. Actually, I was chatting to someone earlier about this, so we were relating on kind of platform consistency. That's a big issue we see, actually. We work with multiple brands, multiple clients, and often what I find is you've got maybe a team working on Roku or a team working on Apple TV, and maybe they're not quite communicating with one another. And then one gets a little bit further along in the journey and, the brand's changed a little bit over here, and this one's using the old brand, and all of a sudden your plate's spinning, trying to figure out how we make this app consistent across all these different platforms. So when we're working with clients, we really try to bring that all together. So creating a design system that's scalable, it's kind of our central source of truth. We can roll that out across all of the different devices we're working on. But outside of that as well, trying to think about those native design patterns. If a user's on Roku or an Apple TV, we want to make sure we're leaning into those patterns so that it's familiar to them. Depending how focus effects work or how rail behavior works on Apple TV, we'll try and lean into those. Other things we'll look at are like the remote control. Obviously, we've got a limited range of motion, so we need to make sure it works with D-pad controls. But then also some remotes have special buttons that we can tap into and kind of enhance the user experience. An example of that is you've got the coloured buttons on Samsung and LG remotes. You can press the green button to add things to your watch list. Little kind of nice little enhancements you can add to the user experience. Focus effects, everyone should, I guess, is aware of those, but obviously we're dealing with a lot of cards and rails. We want to make sure that it's clear where your focus state is. If you're having a chat with your friend on the sofa and then you're going back to the TV, you want to know in a split second what you're actually selected. So making sure that's super clear. And then also taking into account accessibility practices as well. So it's on the big screen. We're about 10 foot away from the TV. We want to make sure that the text is readable, even those descriptions of the content. We also want to make sure we're thinking about things like text-to-speech. And it's not just a case of switching it on. We want to make sure that when we're reading out content or giving users instructions, that it's clear, it's quick, it's intuitive. A great example of that is if you're, say, on a terms and conditions page and it's pages and pages that you're scrolling through. Wouldn't recommend it on TV, but some of the regions and territories require it. You want to make that really clear and easy for users to understand how to navigate through that experience. Outside of that as well, obviously making it clear and intuitive. So we want, like I said, 10 foot, we want big clear titles. We want to make sure that we're focusing really on the content. At the end of the day, we're there to promote people to watch things on the TV. And I'm sure a lot of people have had this pain of not finding something to watch. So it's our jobs to kind of make that as easy as possible. And then outside of that as well, just being aware of the colour contrast. So we work with such a different range of TVs, colours rendered slightly differently. And sometimes you have brands that have these really great, vivid colours, but then it looks great on your monitor, and then you put it up onto a Vestel or a Samsung. I'm not poo-pooing those devices; they're just ones that came to my head. The colours will look different. Okay. This isn't recorded, right? Perfect. So yeah, as designers, we actually have to ping it up on the TV and make sure that the colour contrast is looking as we need it to. So yeah. Jumping the gun a little bit, but yeah, we'll start to look at what that looks like in terms of design. So we'll go into Figma, we'll start building out our wireframes. You saw that story map earlier. Well, this is a little bit further along in that now. So now we've taken it into GitLab, where product teams are writing the user story, adding the user acceptance criteria, and that's a collaborative exercise. We do a review with all the different departments working on the project, sense checking the behavior makes sense. And in some instances, we might do mock-ups of the animation to sort of show how you might navigate through certain elements. We don't do it for absolutely everything, but just those kind of more unique or key areas of interaction, we want to just help define and provide a little bit more guidance on how that interaction would look and work. Actually, a side quest to this, but we started getting the design team trained up on user stories as well. And that's actually been really invaluable, because what I've noticed is, as designers, it's made us think more deeply about the products. So Eslam and Sakshi and Rama, they also contribute to writing these. And you guys also run free Amigo sessions and requirement review meetings. I think as designers, it's a really great thing to do. Makes you a bit more well-rounded and helps build your confidence and makes you think a bit more deeper about the product. So yeah, designers out there, I'd definitely recommend dipping your toe into that world of product. So next up, user testing. We want to make sure the things that we're designing and building work and make sense. And a great way to do that is prototyping. So a bit before this, when we first used to do prototypes, we'd arrange user interviews, we'd find the customer's target audience, we'd get them on a call, and we'd get them up in front of a prototype that we'd link together in Figma of just screen designs. What was happening is the users were treating it like a website. We're on a Zoom call, they're using the mouse wheel to scroll, they're trying to click on tiles, and as much as they were hacking their way through it and getting to the thing that we wanted them to do, it wasn't really an accurate user test. So we came up with this different approach where we've kind of embedded the Figma frame inside like a living room experience, and then all of the Figma prototypes are linked to the remote control. So when we arrange user interviews, we say to them, right, imagine this remote control is in your hand, you're sitting at home, you've got a cup of tea, you're having a biscuit. We want you to, navigate to the show page, or we want you to search for a specific show title. And you have to click on the arrows to navigate through the app and use the middle button to select and make a selection. Still very crude, but it's far more appropriate to the user experience we're trying to simulate. And we get some really great results from this, and we can start to understand where there's challenges or blockers in the user experience and not have any red herrings. And then thinking about design in general for connected TV, it's a minefield. Honestly, I tried to put as many as I could on here, but there's definitely more. And then when someone says, can we have a TV app? It's like, well, which one do you want? There's loads. And they all have their own unique quirks and challenges and platform considerations. And on top of that, we have to think about the different years as well. So how do we gracefully degrade the experience for maybe some of the, and no, again, not having a go, some of the U-view or free view boxes, some of those older ones, we might have to really sort of, refine the experience so that they run performantly on them. But then also, we don't want to be so hamstring, we're not going to be innovative enough and create something that's got that wow factor for the high-end devices. So yeah, there's a barometer there, and we need to think about that when we're designing for those different platforms. And something we do as well, like I said earlier, we're trying to make things consistent, trying to have that kind of one master design file. What we do is this is looking at in-app purchasing flow. This is for BritBox. They were on Zumo and Vizio, where they were rolling out in-app purchasing. And rather than doing like a generic in-app purchasing flow, we'll actually go through and replicate all of the native screens that you're meant to see and expect to see when you're making a purchase across those two different platforms. Because they treat them differently. Just a quirk of Vizio is if you try to make a subscription, you haven't actually linked your device yet, then you can't make that purchase. So you have to do that device linking flow, and that's what those boxes are that just went by very quickly. And then it just means that there's no ambiguity. If you're a product manager, if you're a designer, if you're a QA engineer, you can come here. It's almost like a storyboard of exactly what you're meant to see. So we really want to create that really clear picture for the team when they're working on these apps. Right, so what's this bit? So we've done our design process. These are more some of the kind of tools and workflows we've done to help us be more efficient when we're designing for connected TV. And to be honest, a lot of these can be applicable to most digital products. So, yeah, have we got any Figma fans in here? Anyone use Figma at all? There we go, right, so, yeah, not my audience, it's fine. But there's some cool stuff that Figma do. So this came out about a year and a half ago, which is basically Figma's variables. What variables are in Figma essentially are the selection of styles that you can define, and then you can apply that to buttons or components. And if you make a change to that variable, it will trickle down into all of them. So it makes making brand updates or design tweaks very efficient. But they also brought out this thing called modes. And what modes allows you to do is essentially have two versions of a single variant. So if I've got a button that's yellow, that's my button variant. but I might have a second mode to that where I say the button's black. What's great about that is if you apply modes to all of your elements, you can do things like you're seeing in this video here, where everything's set up as a mode, and my frame is set to a light mode or a dark mode, and it will automatically update all of the UI to be in that dark mode. So very quickly you can sort of do things like a rebrand project whilst maintaining the original. You can do a light or dark mode, or you might have like a branded takeover for a specific celebration or a part of the year that you want to do. And this helps maintain that consistency in the design system and still let you have that flexibility to have something that looks a bit more unique. The reason the image is still white is it doesn't handle gradients yet, but I'm sure they're working on it. So yeah, that's a little flavor of modes. Something else that's incredibly useful, which I thought I'd point out, is just Figma AI tools that allows you to do translations on the fly. This was for S4C. We had to make sure the app worked in Welsh and the English language. Welsh is a little bit longer, and we wanted to make sure that the app would, handle those characters. We didn't want buttons getting so long that they're going off screen. We didn't want titles getting shortened. We didn't want descriptions that were going to take up half the page. And in the past, we did a project with Dine, which is a German sports brand. They wanted the app in German. And what we had to do actually is we gave access to a translator, and they went through all of the screens and updated all the copy manually. Quite expensive, quite long-winded. This allows us to very quickly just sense check, does the design hold up? So using these kind of tools just makes massive efficiencies. It's not going to be 100% accurate. I'm sure there's going to be blips, but just from a visual point of view and making sure it works, this is a great kind of technique to sort of sense check it. And yeah, this is also a great kind of new feature. It's not AI, I don't know, but essentially Figma has brought in accessibility color kind of indicators. So when you're working in design, and this is an example here, I'm selected the Tennis TV Watch Live button, I can select the text, and Figma has this accessibility checker tool built in now. So if I turn that on, it kind of has this kind of border. Anything above that border fails, anything below it passes. And you can switch between AA or AAA standards depending on what your goals are for accessibility standards. In the past, we would have to basically install and download a plugin and run that check. And again, it was kind of long-winded. With this, it's baked into the design process. So as we're designing, we just turn that toggle on. We can see if we're passing those kind of basic fundamental accessibility tests very quickly. And again, these are just saving 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, just make us more efficient, which means we can design more experiences. Right, so this is the last bit, the future of designing for connected TV and interactivity. So yeah, I think, like I said, those tools and those processes have helped us really be more efficient and optimize how we design. And we're seeing that new platforms that are coming out are more advanced. We're getting more processing power. So we're going to be able to create more innovative streaming experiences. We're not hamstringed by some of the technology that we work with today, so to speak. And one of the big areas that we see is in the video player. We see that as being kind of obviously that's where we spend most of our time, it's a streaming app, but we see that as being a great opportunity to innovate, a great opportunity to engage and allow users to really have some unique, special streaming experiences. And I mentioned Dined again, flagship client of ours. They were keen to look into sports stats overlays. So this is in partnership with Dine and a company called Spicy Mango, if you guys have heard of them. They're a brilliant group to work with. They had a product called Game Day, which kind of is a CMS between sports data feeds and the front end. And we took that feed and we created this unique interactive experience. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to do something like this on some of the older devices, but modern platforms where you can really push the experience, you can do things like having key moments where we've got scores or points or fouls you can jump to in that moment. And actually they're looking at taking this a step further now and monetizing it. So when you go into a key moment, you get like a 5-second bumper ad and then you're into the key moment. So yes, we can create great experiences, but there's also maybe monetization options as well, which that's gonna, it's got to be done. It's got to be done, I'm afraid. We're gonna have banner ads everywhere in the future. No. Please don't. Should I go on a website now on a mobile phone? It's a nightmare. But yeah, we might have things like team statistics and team lineups for people that are really interested in that kind of thing. So yeah, we see that as being a big change in the future. Still looking at the video as well, multiview is becoming more popular. I think a lot of us in this room have experienced watching TV and watching something on our phone or browsing. We're kind of used to a multi-sensory input at this point. And now TVs are capitalising on that and leaning into it. So they're starting to allow you to watch more streams at once. Great if you're a football fan, you don't want to miss a game, you're sick of kind of jumping in and out and jumping back again, you can have both. They tend to, where I've seen it being rolled out, is you have your core game that's in focus, and that's where the audio feed's coming from. If you navigate to the other panel, then it will switch audio, and you can select that and go into the full screen mode. Samsung have multi-view as well. They've got things like integrated with gaming, so you can play on your PlayStation 4 and have a YouTube video up. You can connect your phone to it as well. So it is really customizable and really encouraging like multi-streams and experiences at once. And then, yeah, getting back into the commercial angle. Like I said, it has to be done. Look, at this point, it seems like TV is the primary viewing device, which, it feels more sensible now, but if you said that, 3 or 4 years ago, you'd have said maybe web and mobile. And I think YouTube announced this year that TV is actually overtaken. It's like their primary device. If that's where the user's attention is, then there's a great opportunity to, strengthen that customer-user relationship and obviously, have some commercial aspect to it as well. So we're starting to see brands experiment with shoppable TV a little bit more. Things like, tickets to merchandising, or Amazon. I mean, they're in this lovely sweet spot, right? They've owned this, incredible e-commerce solution, coupled with the fact they've got Amazon Prime. They can do things like, have shoppable ads, which you can see a product and add it to your basket and then go and make that purchase straight away. And I don't think TV's there to, make you enter your shirt size, pick a color, and put in your shipping address. That's going to be absolutely painful on TV. But I can see it helping move users along the purchase path a little bit further. Adding something to your cart is a great example of that, or even if it's just product exploration. Other things we see is companion apps. I can't remember the stat exactly, but I think it's like 80% of viewers in the States have a phone next to them, or start to browse when they're watching content. And that can be a distraction from the 10-foot experience. And what we're starting to see is brands sort of leveraging that a little bit more. Like a traditional companion app would be something like the Roku app, where you can use it as a TV remote, but also deep dive into specific apps. But then we look at things like YouTube, and they're really starting to see it as a second screen experience to add additional value to the experience. So when you're watching a program on YouTube, you can link your phone to it, and you'll get access to things like the comments, the description. The content creator might have a brand deal and have products that they want to promote, and they might push those through the mobile app itself. So we see companion apps potentially being used more and more, especially if you think, again, like the sports experience. Showed you that one with the sports data overlays. That's not for everyone. Might be a bit too overwhelming. You might want to leverage the second screen device. And also, that would be great, because if you're on a lower end device, that could be a nicer way to handle that as well, and still allow people to experience those interactions. We're also starting to see the rise of short form content on TV. Who'd have thought? I think most people think shorts is for the mobile phone when you're on the tube or before bed, even though you shouldn't. And I think, yeah, it's one of those content types and formats that is quite surprising. We were at a talk at YouTube in Tokyo, and the thing they mentioned was it seems to be like one of the more popular forms of content on the big screen. One of the things being it gathers people together in the living room. It's something that's kind of quick, easy, it's light. It takes away, again, the decision fatigue if you're trying to find something to watch. It actually reminds me a lot of my uni days when me and Matt were living together, and we'd put on fail videos on YouTube. We'd just chuck it on. It feels like it's kind of simulating that kind of easy content just to have on in the background. And yeah, we can't do a talk about the future of connected TV without talking about voice. I don't know if anyone saw the CES announcement, but Google Gemini talked about voice interaction and some of the new TVs they're bringing out. It's really interesting because back in the day at FX, we invested quite heavily in voice, looking at Alexa skills and Google Actions, but it was so rigid. You know, it was very sequential. You couldn't really, it's not like it is today with conversational AI. It was almost like option A, then you go to option B, then you go to option C. With this now, with LLMs, you can have far more interesting discussions and have more relevant results to those voice commands. So something that we're starting to see is you can have like a search query. So you could say, show me all the TV shows that were released in the last year, or show me TV shows that have an IMDb rating of 8. I think that's the sweet spot. You could, potentially even look at it to deep dive into specific points of a video. You might not necessarily want to watch the whole of Strictly Come Dancing. You might want to say, I just want to see the final, and I want to see the show dances. I don't want to see any of the practice runs. Those are some like interesting kind of experiences that you could get through voice that you might not necessarily want to type out today. Also, this is just really cool. I thought they have proximity sensors. So when you come into the living room now, the TV turns on, and you might get like a bit of AI-generated artwork, I think is what they demoed. And as you get closer to the TV, then the UI will change, and depending if you've got a smart home sensors or door cam or anything like that, it starts to update the experience to show you those elements. So it's kind of making me think, if it's got motion detectors and microphones, it might even make the remote control redundant in the future because it's getting very hands-free at this point. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then, I just chucked a bunch of stuff on a slide. This was basically looking at the devices of the future. Obviously, Apple Vision Pro is still in its early days, but we saw Facebook launch their prototype of Orion. There's definitely a world in where we're going to be wearing headsets or glasses or AR overlays, and that actually provides an amazing opportunity for design, because at that point you've got an infinite canvas. You can put the glasses on, and if we're thinking about interactivity, sports overlays, or anything that is going to be unique to the experience, we've got no constraints. We can build that world around the user. We can have more of a kind of an immersive experience where you can really shape and design something that's going to be unique to the user and maximize the experience. There's no point putting on glasses and it's the same as watching on TV. We might as well leverage, what these hardware give us. And obviously automotive, that's a big one. A lot of people are talking about it. Obviously you can't watch and drive, but it's great if you're parked and you're picking up a friend. Something to think about there. Again, like I said earlier, we have to think about those native platforms and those design kind of patterns. Cars like Tesla, they have their own unique design guidelines, so it's probably wise to sort of stick and follow that, so that when you're in the car, your application feels intuitive, it feels familiar to the other apps that you're interacting with. So again, just thinking back, like all those kind of efficiencies we're making with those tools is great, because now we have to think about all these other platforms and all the other kind of design patterns that come with them. And you can get streaming on your fridge as well. They say, what is it, the expression? Watch a kettle, it never boils. Now you don't need to worry about it. You can just watch YouTube on your fridge while you're, making your breakfast, having a cup of tea. I haven't even seen the design guidelines for that. No idea. That would be an interesting one to look into. But yeah, it's a fun, crazy world of designing for connected TV. Hopefully that gave an insight into who we are, how we work, and some of the things we do to, approach design. Any questions?